And NFL Insider just gave me all the lowdown deets on how the Denver Broncos can beat the Seattle Seahawks in week 1. That is right. We got a chance to talk to the biggest Seattle Seahawks fan literally on the planet. Literally, he actually won NFL Fan of the Year, got to go to the Super Bowl, do a ton of amazing stuff. Make sure you go follow him at his channel at Norbcam. I also pop onto his video and I spit the hottest fire about how the Denver Broncos really are going to come out on top. But let's let it breathe with Norbcam. All right, we literally have the Seattle Seahawks biggest fan. We're going to talk all about how he won NFL Fan of the Year at the end of this video. But Norb, I got a ton of questions for you about the Seattle Seahawks this year. Obviously, we're playing the Denver Broncos Seahawks on Sunday. And since you're the biggest fan, all my first 5 questions are biggest questions for you. So first question. What is the biggest strength of this current Seattle Seahawks team?
Ooh, I would probably say biggest strength is our offensive weapons. We've got, the consistency because we've got the same receiving core. We've got the same running back core. Tight ends changed a little bit, but, Geno Smith, he's been there now. This is his 3rd season coming up. And, he started off with a good, first year when he had the reins taken over for Russell Wilson, did great, comeback player of the year. Last year fell off a little bit, but I wouldn't say that's entirely his fault. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but that core group combined with our new offensive coordinator, and of course, completely new coaching staff, I feel like we're going to get more out of that engine than we've seen in the past. At least that's my fingers are crossed on that. So that's probably what I'm most excited about in terms of what I know I can expect because they've been there before. It's just a matter of getting them to fire on all cylinders.
So, DK Metcalf, one of the most jacked receivers in the league, and just, any ball in his territory. I think our hope is that, Patrick Surtain held his own with him when we played you guys 2 years ago. The guy who scares me is Kenneth Walker. I remember watching him carry Michigan State. What are the hopes for him this year in year 3 now of the Seattle system?
Well, I'm really excited, not just for Kenneth Walker. He's obviously the primary bell cow. The biggest thing stopping him is his injuries, in which I think every team has that fear, right? But if he's healthy the entire season, or at least for most of it, I think he's going to have a great, a great, maybe his best season so far. But I love the 1-2 combination, and it's a 1-2-3 combination I'm really looking forward to this year because we've got Zach Charbonnet, who's been in the backfield with him, but there was a time there where both of them were kind of not on the field at the same time. It felt like when one was out, the other one was hurt, and the other one was hurt, the other one was out, and so to have those two together for an extended period of time would be incredible. But then you add Kenny McIntosh, who is basically a second-year guy, but he was injured early on. But I was really excited about this kid coming out of Georgia, but he just never really saw the field, had a knee thing that was affecting him. But seeing him in the preseason, it's like, oh, there he is. That's the guy we were looking for. So the fact that they've got him now in the rotation as the number 3 back, I'm really excited to see what he can add to this crop that we already got.
Now, I saw your starting center is questionable for week 1. Any updates on that situation?
We're following that real closely right now. It's one of the concerns I have. If you were to ask me on the opposite side, what's our weakness, is one of the positions that is really concerning. And we picked up Connor Williams from the Dolphins, who is coming off an ACL injury, but is rated as one of the best centers in the NFL. When healthy, went up to speed. The problem is he hasn't been healthy. He's recovering. And he hasn't been up to speed because we acquired him relatively recently. So I think it's just been a matter of trying to get him up to speed with the whole new, playbook and gelling with the line. So haven't heard a definitive whether he'll play in this game or not. Obviously, I would love for him to do so. But it's right now feeling like it's going to be Oluwatimi probably is the starting center if Williams is not ready to go. We just haven't really heard a confirmation yet if he is. So at some point he'll take over, but it may not be in time for this first week matchup.
Yeah, center is a position. We lost our starting center to the Tennessee Titans, and Connor Williams is one of those names that a lot of people in Broncos country wanted to get just because, you look at his PFF grade, and I think he's the 2nd or 3rd highest rated center in the whole country. Right. So it'd be good for us if he didn't play, but as big as this game is for us, because we need Bo Nix to start off with a W, really, this is probably like the least important game on our schedules, knowing that you got a tough matchup in your division, playing the 49ers twice and the Rams twice. And so if there's a question mark, it's almost like you'd want to hold some of those dudes back.
Yeah, for sure. But I also feel like this is a must-win game for us. I mean, every game, right? I mean, I don't think there's every game you feel like, oh, we don't need this game. But because our schedule gets really tough, not to say that this first week won't be tough. I think they're all going to be tough, but crucial, I should say, being, as you mentioned, the division games. And then we just got a ton of tough opponents that we got to face both on the road and coming in here. So if we want to have any chance of hanging with the Niners or trying to snag one of those playoff spots, we've got to get a win here, at least one out of the first 2 weeks, preferably the first two. But it would be great to start with one at home.
Yeah, week two. I'll let you win that. We're not going to give you week one. So other side of the coin, for the biggest fan of all Seattle Seahawks, what is the biggest weakness? You mentioned injury. What are some other weaknesses on this team? And what was the biggest weakness stopping you from the playoffs last year?
Well, I guess I'll kind of add to that. I've already mentioned center, but really just I got to hit two spots. The offensive line as a whole, center and then right tackle. We've got a similar situation where we thought we'd had our tackle for the future in Abe Lucas. And then we find out he's got this kind of nagging, recurring knee injury, which flared up again this past year. He had to get off-season surgery, so he's not going to play for at least the first 4 games. So we've got once again a rotating door of right tackles to choose from, none of which would be your inked starter if you could just put the guy you want there. So that's a bit of a concern. It's as whole as the offensive line. And then on the defensive side, I love what's going on with the defense in terms of the personnel, the rookies that we've drafted. I think we're great at safety. I think we've completely changed that out, and I love it. Just with Julian Love back there, Rayshon Jenkins, Byron Murphy. I can't wait to see what this guy can do in the trenches. Corners very deep there. With Witherspoon and Woolen, Trey Brown, but linebacker. Big concern right there, because we lost Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner last year at the same time, right? And so they brought in Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker from the Bills and from Miami to fill in those spots. Well, Dodson's been doing just fine, preseason, hard to tell, but Jerome Baker has been having a nagging injury that that's not allowed him to play the entire preseason. So he hasn't seen the field at all. And we've been relying on these two guys to be our, the 1-2 starters. So I still don't know at this point if Baker's going to be good to go. In the meantime, we got to go with a couple guys, Tyrese Knight and Drake Thomas, who no idea how these guys are going to fare come regular season style games. So, to go from where we had for a long time, we had some, great linebackers, KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, to a point now where it feels like it's the weakness of the defense right now, is definitely a concern of mine. So holding my breath to see how these guys, hold up in the middle of the field.
Well, we actually have a tight end now, so that sounds like a good matchup for us. Might want to make sure you start him on your fantasy team this week. Greg Dulcich over the middle all week, let's call it. Yeah, so talk to me like storyline wise, like as a Broncos fan, we always couldn't stand the Seahawks, and after what you did to us in Super Bowl and then fleecing us with the Russell Wilson trade, like, we tried to just ignore you, but we always thought like Pete Carroll was the dude. So what is the biggest reason that the Seattle Seahawks moved on from who I thought was like a great coach?
Well, I think one, he was not a young pup, right? I mean, he was getting up there in his 70s. And we all kind of felt as fans, he probably had maybe 1 or 2 more years left. I thought he'd get one more shot just to kind of see if he could turn this thing around. I think some of the critique, though, is that his message might have started to get a little bit stale to some of the players. And also, some of his schemes, as much as we've changed coordinators, we have had so many offensive coordinators, different quarterbacks, obviously, but it seems like the critique has always been the same, that when it comes to scheme, when you compare, the Shanahans of the world and the other, where the offenses have been trending these days. Pete Carroll, that was never really his style. And despite the fact that he changed different coordinators, it seemed like things still stayed pretty simple. And it worked when we had all that talent and Russell Wilson under rookie contract, which is why we were so good at the beginning of his career. But then I think after a while, it felt like we kind of lagged behind in terms of creativity and just having a little bit more elaborate schemes to misdirect and confuse defenses and offenses, for that matter, on the defensive side of things. And so I think part of it too was also the fact that, it was that feeling like we needed something fresh, both from just a team chemistry standpoint, but more importantly, I think just in terms of modernizing the scheme a little bit. And, we'll see. We haven't seen it yet, because they, as at most teams in preseason, they keep things pretty close to the vest. They don't show off their sparkly new toys and elaborate things and keep it pretty vanilla. So I'm just as excited as the rest of the world to see what they do, because I know that they have been in practices running a little more complex, zone blitzes and just deception and linemen dropping back in coverage and blitzes coming off the edge from, so the quarterbacks will be less aware of where the pressure is going to be coming from. And that's what I'm hoping will be our strength when it comes to playing some of these rookie quarterbacks, Bo Nix being the first one on the list. Yeah,
man. Well, you got McVay and Shanahan in that division. You gotta, now what they're saying is McDonald is like the McVay of defense, and that could be a really good, chemistry thing, or a good piece of the puzzle there for y'all. What do you think is the biggest difference in how you're seeing training camp run and preseason run, and just like the vibes around the team between Mike McDonald and a Pete Carroll system?
I think, it's surprising. When I went to my first training camp, I was expecting it to be like totally different, because I'd heard that, they've turned the music down, and because Pete Carroll was famous for having lively practices, players kind of being able to do what they want, and the music cranked up. And I was expecting we come in there and it's like no music, it's all serious. And I was like, music's cranking, it doesn't feel really any different in terms of the atmosphere. But I think that the biggest difference in the way that he coaches is just from his words and the way he answers the media. Pete Carroll's, everybody would kind of chuckle because Pete Carroll has a way of answering questions without really answering any questions. But Mike McDonald's pretty direct. He'll say things pretty matter-of-factly, and he'll say, yeah, we really sucked at doing this, but we're going to clean that up for next time. And so he just seems very intentional in the way he gives not just information to the media, but even to players. He's very direct to saying, why were you not hustling to the ball here? You need to be, even if you're away from the play, you need to be, hustling. So he gets in their face right away, addresses it. But then he'll reward the players with, like when they're in Tennessee for their preseason scrimmages and game, had this, surprise barbecue for the players, or they'll have a surprise day off, which the players, love little perks like that. So I think he mixes a good sort of hard-nosed, like tough love sort of approach, but mixes in enough rewards so it's a good balance. And it's just different because Pete was such a rah-rah players guy. I think Mike McDonald's trying to balance that a little bit more, where he's still the coach. He's still he wants to make sure he's still the one in charge and people have to respect what he says. But at the same time, he's going to give the guys something to, enjoy, so they won't just, hate him like a drill sergeant or something like that. So, and he's the youngest coach in the league. So I think he can also relate to players in a way where, again, Pete Carroll was twice his age, almost, if not around twice his age. So it's, I'm sure it just feels different when you got a guy when age difference is that big. As cool as Pete Carroll was, don't get me wrong, I love myself some Pete Carroll.
I just Googled because of his energy and always chomping on that gum, he seemed way younger than he was. Like, I didn't realize how old he was until I just looked it up. So that's pretty crazy.
And that's the thing about it. He kind of had that fountain of youth thing going on. Because in practice, you'll see him, he's jogging, he's running, he's throwing the ball around. So he doesn't look like or act like an old man. He just is older. So I'm just thinking, and again, we don't get to be in the trenches and see what it's like day to day in locker room and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of his energy, no doubt he's just as energetic as the next guy. But, there is something to be said that, the players are getting younger and he was getting older, and maybe some of that stuff just, maybe there's a little less relatability there. That's just part of it. But, I think as a whole, that was eventually going to happen.
So, I mean, I think the worry I have for sure is like Nix looked unbelievable in preseason, but it was against a lot of vanilla, and Mike McDonald's system is predicated on like they're in the same formation. You don't know who's coming, who's dropping back. I guess the hope would be like he doesn't have the talent defensively, like the actual talented pieces that he had in Baltimore. Does he? Like, is there actual enough talent with the Seattle Seahawks defense to implement what the Ravens did?
Well, I already mentioned it, and I can't state enough how concerned I am about the linebacking situation. That's a big one, right? I mean, your linebacking side of any defense. It's like the heart and soul of your defense. So it's not only physically in the heart of the field there, but it's also, the guy calling the shots. He's the voice and the commander out there for the defense. So that's going to be a big facet of the game that I'll be watching. But I feel like the talent in all the other positions, I feel very comfortable that they could run whatever scheme they need. The biggest other issue, though, that is concerning about this first game, and really the first probably 3 weeks, is that Uchenna Nwosu, our pass rusher, got chop blocked and injured his knee in that final preseason game, which is just a terrible thing to have happen in a pointless game, where you're basically, he was probably going to play one series and be out. And in that one series, he gets this injury. It completely sucked. And as soon as he hit the turf, I was like, no. Because we went through this last year where Nwosu, the defense was playing really well for the first half or so of the season. And then he got knocked out with a pec injury, knocked him out for the rest of the season. And the Seahawks defense went from here just completely like tail of two cities. And so he's going to be out for this game. And that's concerning because I know how much he's such a big integral part of not just rushing the passer, but sealing the edge and stopping the run. So that's going to definitely be a concern in terms of not having one huge piece of the talent puzzle that Mike McDonald won't be able to use.
Yeah. Well, oh man, it's crazy. I feel like the line just keeps going up though. Like even after the two pieces of news drops with him and Williams, it's like it went from, I think it opened at 4.5 and now it's up to 6. Well, why do you? What's the thought around Seattle now about Denver and what their prediction is, and why do you think it's a 6-point line? Because I think we're a lot better than people are giving us credit for.
Well, I think there's a lot of guessing right now because nobody's really seen either team in full. It's like I said, there's certain pieces that we've been running with, and so we know what to expect from, like our offensive side of the ball in terms of the weapons. Defensively, we have a lot of the same pieces, a lot of new pieces, but huge liabilities too. I think it's the combination of the fact that it's a home game, it's our opener. We always play teams tough at home, especially on the first game of the year. Everyone's extra hyped, of course. So there's that, and then I think Seattle has, they not that the record matters. They went 2-1, but I feel like what I've seen on tape so far of at least the areas that you can evaluate, because you can't really evaluate, the guys who they don't play, but like seeing the talent behind them, I feel even better about the second level guys. And at some point these guys are going to play, right? And so you're watching your secondary, you're seeing, your backup linemen, you're seeing your backup running backs. That's why, as I said earlier, Kenny McIntosh got me really excited to see him get major touches, and it's going to be just a huge effect on the game. But yeah, as far as the line changing, I think also the fact that, rookie quarterback starting his first campaign on the road, hostile environment. At least I'm going to hope it's going to be hostile. I'm going to definitely in person try to be as hostile as possible and get the rest of the crowd to do that.
Come on,
and,
Norb.
It's just what we do, man. Yeah. And, so a rookie quarterback is like blood in the water, right? The Sharks are out there, and, we're familiar with Nix because I'm a UW Husky fan. And so we've had the rivalry with Oregon. So Bo Nix has been a guy that he's familiar with our side of the world, and we're familiar with the Oregon side. So there's a little bit extra spice to the rivalry just for us, for majority of the Seattle fans who are also Husky fans. So I think that's going to add to the welcome when he takes the ball under center for the first time. So hard to say exactly why, but I would guess I'm kind of surprised in the sense that with the injury issue that didn't neutralize the line. The fact that it moved up is a bit surprising to me, but I'm thinking that, a rookie quarterback, unknown situation, unfamiliar defense, that could be very challenging for the young man.
Yeah. So to me, like geographically, Oregon is kind of by you, but are most like Seattle fans, Washington fans, so they won't. Because I was like, oh, I wonder if he'll kind of have some family and friends and Oregon friends go watch. Is that not anywhere close? Or will there be Oregon fans who are Seattle fans as well?
I mean, there'll probably be some. You know how it is. It's not every city has the entire, population, but most of the Seattle fans are Husky fans. There's some Cougar fans in the house too, but you got to understand, it's not like, well, they're close to us, so we'll be supportive of the young man. The fact that it's Oregon
makes it worse.
Other than Wazoo, because it's an in-state rival, Oregon is the other most hated school when it comes to any Husky fan. And so that's gonna, this proximity doesn't even matter. I mean, it's a bit of a drive. It's probably, I don't know, 5 hours drive from Oregon up there. So it's not exactly neck of the woods, but there's plenty of Husky fans who will be in the stands wearing their Seahawk colors, rooting against Bo Nix. So I don't think he's going to have a ton of friends out there other than a few extra seats that they're able to scrap up.
Nice, man. All right, so those are all the biggest questions. We'll do some fill in the blank rapid fire to get you out of here. The Seattle Seahawks win on Sunday if
the Seattle Seahawks win on Sunday if I think it comes down to one thing: if they win the turnover battle. I mean, that's the main thing, because I think that's the one thing that if they lose that opens the door for the Broncos to win this, because I do have the Seahawks winning this game. I don't know if we're going to get to that, like a score prediction later. I'm saving that, but I feel good about this game. But, turnovers are the one thing that can ruin any perfect scenario, that everything's going great and all of a sudden, boop, fumble at the 1 yard line. So much for that. Completely mess the game up. So I think if we win the turnover battle, then everything else should align to where I think it's the game that's in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Broncos' 5-game win streak last year we beat the Chiefs, the Bills, the Browns, like a bunch of good playoff teams, and we won the turnover battle decisively all throughout that. So I think that's a huge part of a Broncos victory for sure. So then conversely, it could be just like they lose a turnover battle, but the Denver Broncos win the game what do you think has to happen?
If Bo Nix can do exactly the opposite of what I was saying, if Bo Nix doesn't struggle and he comes out firing, exploiting our defense, getting first downs. And I think the second biggest thing is, well, if you don't win the turnover battle, but if you can win the time of possession, basically means, which equates to third down conversions and stay on the field, basically keeping the Seattle offense off the field, which is what I feel the most strong about, then I feel like they could control the tempo of the game and neutralize, our offensive abilities. And, if you're on the field for longer, chances are you're probably winning in the scoreboard as well, unless the turnovers mess that up. So, but yeah, that's the other thing too. So if Bo Nix comes out and we're not able to get into his head and fluster him a little bit, I get a little nervous if he's upright and making throws down the field, play after play.
Well, I believe he will be, man. I mean, I can't tell you how much of our hopes are in this young dude, and it's going to be a great game. What is your final score prediction?
So I'm hoping that this is a relatively comfortable win, meaning that I'm not biting my nails till the last 30 seconds, which happens way too often in Seattle. So my final score is Seattle 24, Denver 13.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that would hurt my heart, man. That would hurt my heart. I have Broncos 28, Seahawks 24. Do you remember the last time we played on opening day when Russ returned and we attempted a 65-yard field goal instead of going for it on fourth down and barely lost to y'all?
That was a game. How can I forget that game? I mean, the return of Russ. I mean, it was one of the most anticipated games in recent history for that reason. But yes, that game, you guys should have won on multiple occasions. I'm talking about the turnover battle, right? You guys had the ball within our first and goal twice.
Yes.
And fumbled them twice and lost the football. You punch it any one of those times, the game's over. So, yeah, we won by a lot of luck on that one. And whether you consider turnovers luck or some kind of, something that you had effect on, it's not very often that a team's going to get turnovers at the goal line and basically swing the game. What would have been easily a 14-point swing or more if you don't punch that ball in. And then the ending of that, the fact that they were lining up for a field goal, I was so relieved. I was like, what are they doing? They're going for a 60-something yard field goal in Seattle. Granted, the guy almost made it, missed it like that much, but still, Denver did everything possible to try to not win that game. And I was very happy about that.
Yes, I'm very happy we've moved on from Nathaniel Hackett. I think better days are ahead for the Denver Broncos. And we disagree on our score prediction, but do we agree? What is our opinion on Russell Wilson? This will be our last one. Is he going to be successful in Pittsburgh, or is he cooked?
Man, I've been wondering that. And I guess if I have to make a decision, I'm going to say that he's not going to live up to expectations. And this may be his final season where they go, wow, you know what? I think Russ is done. And he'll be facing do you want to enter the world of being a backup somewhere and no longer the starting quarterback guy? Or do you start kind of thinking maybe it's time to hang it up? I've been rooting for the guy, obviously, and I thought he'd be with us till the end of his career. But, man, I never thought in a million years, A, he would have played with two other teams, and then B, one of those being the Broncos or the Steelers. I think both of those things, you never would have told me that would have happened, 10 years ago. But here we are.
Fall from grace for Mr. Unlimited.
Broncos country, let's ride.
That's right. All right. Well, we can't end on that. We got to end on a Bo-Lieve. Thanks so much for hopping on. I'm going to hop on your channel, so I will link it in the description. But this is awesome, and we'll definitely connect as the year goes on. And thank you so much, man.
All right. Other than game one, good luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you too.